In studio with me right now, the chairman of the Lubbock County Republican Party, Carl Tepper.
Good morning, Chad Hasty.
How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. A little sleepy. This time change always kind of knocks me for a loop.
Yeah, it takes me about a week or so to kind of get used to everything, but you've got a busy weekend coming up.
Yeah, I forgot how much work that goes into these things. You're never quite prepared, and giant convention and speeches and fitting in the getting the program done and sponsor boards and overhead projectors and then all the rules and all the different committees. I'm just absolutely flabbergasted in how much there is to do. This is the third time you think I know what I was doing already, and I don't. So
it's the county convention. It's right. This Saturday. What exact for those who don't know? Number one, where's it going to be? What time is it at?
You know, the Bear Museum of Agriculture, I'm not going to give you the address. It's Broadway and Canyon Lake Drive.
Yeah.
Just past downtown. And we're
Great building.
Great place to have an event. We're having the check-in at 8 a.m. It's going to be a condensed check-in time, everyone. So just show up on time, please. Show up right at 8 to let the ladies check you in and get your badge if you're a delegate or a visitor, get your visitor badge. But it's 8 a.m. check-in, 9 a.m. gavel, and I've got to be kind of tight on time. I've got candidates, congressional candidates. You know, they run from Lubbock to Abilene and vice versa to address all the crowds. And we've got candidates, speakers, and should be a good time.
How long does it last? Or how long can it last?
You know, I've seen these things last until midnight.
Wow.
I've seen these things gavel out in parking garages in Austin at 9 p.m. because they lost the space. They were due to be out of there at 5 hours in Lubbock County. I've got a lot of old heads in Lubbock County who know how this goes, and they know how to kind of herd it through, and they're usually done about 4 to 5 p.m.
Okay. So not too long, but what can people, if folks want to go, you don't have to be a delegate. You can just show up and watch.
You can be a visitor and you can watch. And by the way, I mean, formally, you can actually get yourself on the state convention list. If you missed your precinct convention, didn't make it to the county convention, you can still testify to become a state delegate and go to Dallas.
So what all can people expect at these?
You know, there's a little bit of pomp and circumstance starting out. The body of the convention has a say in everything. So when I gavel in, I'm just the figurehead at that point. I gavel in. I'm the temporary chairman. So this way, there's a little process where pretty quickly after the prayer and pledges, a couple of speeches, then we have nominations and votes for the permanent chairman, the permanent secretary, and the permanent sergeant at arms. And so there are motions for that. And then, by the grace of God or by a curse, I might be considered the permanent chairman after the body votes. Sometimes there's challenges, and all over the state there are challenges, which I think is kind of cool. Where you can knock off the guy who's up there and get your guy. Maybe I got elected by the public, but really the body of the executive committee and the body of that particular convention wants to see someone else lead that meeting. So they might just knock me off. That'd be kind of fun, and have somebody else running the meeting. Hey, do me a favor. I'll go home and enjoy the rest of my Saturday. But no, it's fun. It's fun to do, and it's an honor. And so then you have your committees, and then during the day, you have the platform committee. Lubbock County has a platform. We're only about 5 counties in Texas that have a platform. Normally, it's known as the resolutions committee, where people say, "I hate the UN," or "I'm pro-life, and I don't think there should be any exceptions for rape or incest." We are a traditional marriage family, and they'll talk about those types of tough subjects. Marijuana legalization, the Fed, the gold standard. There'll be all kinds of planks in that platform. People will argue about that all day. The platform committee's been working all week. Hopefully they've got me a document this morning so I get it printed out. And that'll be the baseline where they'll start. People testify all day, and then it'll go to the floor, and there might be some more tweaks to the document. People take their arguments to the floor. There's a secession minority report coming up. That should be kind of fun. And then we've got the nominations committee, which is going to send people to the state convention, which will thereafter at the state convention will send people to be national delegates. This is particular importance this year and getting a lot of attention, where I think I don't see how Donald Trump's going to make his delegates 50% plus one at the national convention. A lot of news outlets are saying he can. I think it's mostly unlikely. So I think he's absolutely right. I don't think he's asking for a ride, but I think you're going to see some real big fights on the floor. And then, of course, you're going to have MoveOn.org and the agitators outside the arena. So you can have riots inside and you can have riots outside. And it's going to be a historical year in Cleveland. That's what I think.
There's going to be a lot of people from every state, not just Texas, but from every state who really – and it's mainly insiders. You know, a lot of the so-called grassroots people – they don't go to the conventions. They don't go to their precinct convention, their county convention, their state. They're not doing that. I mean, it's a lot of insider people, right?
It is traditionally insider people.
And so that's who will most likely be the delegates?
Who knows? If you scream that you love Ted Cruz enough, or if you scream that you love Donald Trump enough, or maybe there's a case of guy somewhere. But
there's got to be one.
It's one of those years where, we've lost some county chairmen throughout the state for various reasons, very surprising, very good county chairman from what I saw. So the grassroots are unhappy. The public's unhappy. The public is starting to pay attention to these processes. Mm-hmm. They're starting to show up at these precinct and county conventions, and I suspect they're going to show up at the state convention. I think Tom Meckler has a tough fight. He's a state party chairman. And he's got a tough fight from a guy down in Houston, Jared Woodfill. And so there's a lot of moving pieces this year. A lot of people are really passionate, and they're going to show up at these conventions.
Does it cost anything to show up?
It doesn't cost anything. We usually ask for, I think it's a $10 donation, for lunch, everyone. So you don't have to pay it. We'll probably give you the lunch anyway. But do us a favor. Try to throw in. These things cost a lot of money to be there. And, buy into the process a little.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for folks who are, wanting to participate more, this is, Election Day is just part of it. You can get more involved, and Saturday's a great way to, even if you're not a delegate, you just show up and watch the process play out. And,
look, if
it'll be entertaining.
If you like to talk politics, this is the way to go. I've been putting younger people on the platform committee with some older heads just to keep things, have some adult supervision, but I've had a slew over the years of young folks. They're learning to legislate. They feel like they're writing the Constitution, and they really take ownership of it. And they learn that, you might be passionate about one issue, but be careful how angry you are at the guy next to you who doesn't agree, because the next issue, he might be your best friend. Yeah. So you want to make sure you keep it to a level where you're all able to work together, you're able to legislate. And we've been so successful at it that a lot of our young folks have gone on. One is chief of staff to Dustin Burrows. One was on the staff of Dustin Burrows. He's at the NRA in Washington now. Another one's at the governor's. There's two at the governor's office, and we've got one at a state senator's office. So we've got people now placed all over the Capitol. I kind of miss them. I wish they would have stayed in Lubbock, but we've done well with it. They've learned to legislate and negotiate and get around politics and how a bill becomes a law, sort of in a lower scale. So. We're very proud of what we've achieved at these conventions.
Before we go to the break, let's go to the phones real quick. Michael, you're on KFYO.
I was just calling to officially remind you, Mr. Hasty, that you are a delegate from my precinct.
I am. That's right.
Be there or be square.
That's right.
Anyway, but I think it's a neat place for people to kind of mix and mingle with the candidates. There's some in runoff elections and all sorts of things that are going on. But this may be an even more important year for who we send as delegates to state, because they in turn will nominate the representatives from our area to vote in the presidential.
Michael reminds me that, if you're into politics, you like to talk about it, if you like to scream at the TV and the radio, if you listen to Chad Hasty, Robert Pratt, you need to go to the county convention. You will absolutely dig it. It becomes a lifestyle. And these people aren't just voices on the radio anymore or columns in the newspaper. You actually get to see them, talk to them, interact, agree, disagree. And we are going to have Chad there tomorrow. I'm going to have him speak a little bit. I forgot to tell you, by the way. I'm going to have Chad speak during the speaker series.
I was just
I had no idea. All right.
I was supposed to get in touch with my delegates, so I thought I better chime in case he had forgotten.
Good for you. You see, Michael's a good precinct chairman. She knows to call her people in her neighborhood and get them out.
I can be found easily. That's what it comes down to.
I just thought it was fun, but it should be a neat thing. So come even if you're not a delegate. You can do everything but vote. So just wanting to encourage people. It's the grassroots place where everything starts, and you can't complain if you don't participate.
There you go. Thanks, Michael.
Been doing it forever. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
You know, people are. There used to be fights at these things. As a matter of fact, Lubbock County used to have 1,000, 2,000 people show up because the party was split. And who knows? It might happen again with this Cruz Trump thing, but. It was exciting, and there were fistfights on the floor. It settled down. Don't worry, everyone. It's settled down quite a bit. We have a quite fewer turnout. I think we have 265 delegates listed this year. I anticipate 150 to 200 show up. My wife thinks I'm crazy that they're all going to show up. So we'll see. We bought food for everybody, so don't worry about that. But, yeah, people are very passionate about these issues.
All right. Let's take the break. When we come back, we'll visit more with Carl Tepper on convention and other issues going on in the political world. We'll be right back. Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. Lubbock County Republican Chairman Carl Tepper in studio. Tepper, the last time you were on, I think you were leaning towards Trump.
Yeah. Make America great again,
Yeah,
Chad.
you're leaning. Now, are you still leaning Trump?
I'm leaning that way.
Okay, I see the hat.
Make America great again.
Let me ask you this. Do you wear the hat often?
Almost every day.
Okay. How many weird looks per
You know what?
day
It's
do you
one
get?
of the. I'm going to do a Donald Trump here. It's one of the highest quality hats I've ever had. It's made in America.
It's luxurious.
It looks good. It fits well. It's got great material. The bill bends just right. It's a Trump hat.
It's very luxurious, and it is made in America. I can attest to that because I have one.
It's not like the ties that were made in China.
No, that's true. So, how many weird looks do you get?
I've got to be careful because I had one lady write me the meanest letter.
Really?
I ran into a building with a client. I think I grabbed the hat out of the truck. It was a Friday. I could wear a baseball cap, and it was a very relaxed client. And ran into a building and talked to her for a minute, and then about a week later, I guess it just fermented with her, and she wrote me the longest, meanest email about how unprofessional I am, how Donald Trump is a fascist, the Republican Party deserves what it gets, blah, blah, blah. And it's pretty typical for my Facebook page nowadays, too. So.
Social media has become open warfare, has it not? And this for everybody. I mean, if you like Cruz, it's open warfare. If you liked Rubio, It was open warfare. And no one really cared about Jeb. For Trump, it's open warfare. I mean, it is some of the worst things that I've seen as far as political debate.
Yeah, everyone with the mean Twitters and the Facebook posts, you're convincing me it's true. You're right. I'm an idiot. I'm a jerk. I'm crazy. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a Republican. You know what? You've convinced me. Being mean to me has convinced me that I've been wrong.
People do go after you a little bit.
Oh my goodness.
I've seen.
Hey, you know what? Yeah. I'm allowed to like who I like. You know what justifies it all for me though is that I went out with a certain friend of mine who's an elected official. I'm not going to say who he is. So we were driving around in the truck, and we were going to put out for primary day, our Trump signs, and he's going to put out the Cruz signs. And we're helping each other. I put out some Cruz signs. And so all the honks and thumbs up were for the Trump signs all around town. And He was getting really annoyed and laughing that the Cruz. But the workers, and then yesterday at the headquarters, we were there for the ballot draw, for the congressional ballot draw, and the mailman walks and he goes, "Oh, great, you're here. Do you have any Trump stickers?" You know, the man on the street, it's certainly not the party insiders. It's the man on the street, the working people who that's where I'm from and that's where I'm most comfortable. Just love Donald Trump. I am not alone here in Lubbock, although, Lubbock is certainly Ted Cruz country. Have no doubt there's a lot of Trump people, a lot of Trump sympathizers here. And so it's been an interesting view into being I've usually been with the mainstream of the grassroots here, but I'm certainly a little off on this one. And it's amazing how quickly they will turn on you. So we'll see what happens when I gavel in tomorrow.
Do you think that from what you've seen, and politics it gets dirty, and it's always at a point where it gets dirty. But this season, everyone talks about how this is the worst anyone has ever seen, that the Republican Party is on the verge of a breakup. Do you think that one of two scenarios, if Trump gets the nomination, Republican Party can all come together behind Donald Trump? If Donald Trump is leading and is only 50 to 100 delegates away and they give it to somebody else, does that fracture the Republican Party. What do you think happens?
I don't think we're exaggerating this year. I absolutely believe the Republican Party could fracture to the point of, will we be suing for the rights to the name Republican? Will we be suing for the furniture? I believe it's that kind of a year where if Donald Trump is at one delegate short, they will not let him on the convention floor. He is not the grassroots or establishment Republican guy. He's more the working class, the people who showed up to vote in this primaries guy. And so the infrastructure and the management of the Republican Party is absolutely not going to let him in that convention hall. That's what I believe, unless he's made a deal with Ted Cruz or someone else to get over that 50% mark. So I absolutely do believe you will have fights in the hall. I believe you'll have riots outside with the Democrats and the agitators and some of our own people. And I think we're looking at the 1960s, early 70s again. And tear gas and horses and the whole bit. I don't think I'm exaggerating at all this year.
Yesterday, I went into a deal, I guess you could say, a tirade, maybe against those who, and I like Eric Erickson. I've talked to him many times, but he's leading this effort.
I like him too. It must be nice to be so wrong all the time.
He's leading this effort to create a third party or to throw in a third party conservative type candidate. And when I look at the U.S. Supreme Court, I just think this isn't a game. I mean, it's real life. Yeah. You're looking at 30 to 40 years of a vastly different United States under a liberal Supreme Court. Am I right here? Am I off base to think that running a third-party candidate would just doom this country?
Yeah, well, you're just giving it to Hillary Clinton is what you're doing. So this is a year where Hillary's such a flawed candidate, this should be a no-brainer to beat her. I think any one of those candidates, including Lindsey Graham, can beat Hillary Clinton.
I don't know about Lindsey.
Well, we'll see. Some of these guys, the gravitas was questionable. She does definitely have a following. The Democratic Party is a big deal. The country's split 50-50. But between Rubio, Cruz, Trump, Rubio, I question a little bit about his gravitas to be able to beat a Hillary. He's a little young. But I think we should be defeating her easily, and this fracturing is definitely going to hurt this party. I think a lot of it, although, Donald Trump has brought, because I hear a lot of Republicans, including some good friends, saying this is the first time they're going to sit out if Donald Trump is nominated.
Yeah.
But I also think that he's brought in so many new voters that it might not matter. He might beat her anyway.
Do you see any kind of a split in the Democrats? Because you have the young people who always tend to be more liberal anyway, but you have young people who are loving Bernie Sanders. And the scary thing is they're loving socialism. I mean, when polled about, they love socialism. So do you see a coming fracture within the Democrats like you have within the Republicans?
Yes. But I still think they'll fall in behind Hillary mostly. But I can't tell you how many of those grassroots Democrats who have told me if Bernie is not the nominee, they're going to Trump, which makes me nervous. Maybe I made a wrong decision. But, if they're – believe me, it makes me nervous. So – but I can't tell you how many have told me on the street that, Carl, I'm glad you're for Trump. I'm not going to say who. I got to be careful here, but I live with some of these people. But in my neighborhood, okay, not in the house. But they have told me that if Bernie is not the nominee, they're going to vote for Donald Trump. So who knows?
All right. Can you stick around one more segment?
You bet.
All right, cool. When we come back, we'll have more with Carl Tepper. We'll talk about how, people are doing down in Travis County. Get his thoughts on that whole mess. And much more when we come back. Carl Tepper's in studio, Lubbock County Republican Chairman, the outgoing Lubbock County Republican Chairman. We're gonna have to start having you on more Fridays. I think it's just fun having you in.
Oh boy,
you're a controversial chairman now because of Trump, but you're not the most controversial.
No. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate that.
That belongs down to Travis County. Okay, what's going on? This is a guy who what was the name? Rob Morrow?
His name is Robert Morrow. The last time I spoke to him, I sent him a cease and desist letter when I lived in Travis County. We had a little PAC that was doing some local stuff, and Rob would go door to door with our little logo, would tell people, you see, we would call the small business group. The small business group endorsed, Jennifer Kim for city council. She's the most business minded, and the other guy's a homo. And so, yeah, it was really tough speak. So we had to send him like, Rob, you have to stop. You're not helping our, we sent him a cease and desist. I think we sent him a letter and some phone calls. But so when he got elected, it was quite a shock. I knew he was running against a friend of mine, James Dickey, who was the Travis County Republican Party chairman. By the way, that's Austin. It's Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
And we've been making some inroads into these urban areas. And so I never thought Rob would have a chance. And James did run. He's very upset that people are saying he didn't try or didn't run, but he did run. The party chairman isn't paid attention to a lot. It's hard to raise money, but he did send out some mailers. People knew he was out there, but he was second on the ballot.
Yeah.
So we suspect that there are some, anti-establishment people who knew he was a chairman. Let me just vote for the other guy because I'm anti-establishment. And we suspect that they just vote for the first guy on the ballot, which was Rob Morrow. So I called Rob, and he said, Carl, you weren't very nice to me last time we talked. I said, look, you're one of my children now. And those of you who don't know, I'm the president of the Chairman's Association. And so I reached out and we had a long discussion about, how do you want history to remember you? You have a chance to maybe change yourself a little and actually lead. And maybe all the things you criticize and you're very tough on these elected officials, maybe you can change policy now. You have an opportunity to have relationships with elected officials and change some policy. He said, well, I'm going to get an executive director and I'm going to keep just blogging and Facebooking like I've been. And by the way, let me call you back. Fox News is calling. Like, no, Rob, please stop. Stop talking. So those of you who don't know, Rob Morrow is a very controversial guy in Travis County in Austin. He tweets and Facebooks what most people would consider inappropriate things about elected officials on the left and on the right. And he's kind of wealthy, actually. Good luck trying to knock him off. You can sue him, and he will countersue. And so I think Rob's starting to digest how much it is to actually be a county chairman that people don't see. All the little meetings, all the caucuses, the canvases, the ballot draws, the ethics reports, and all the meetings. You're just really a big event planner, is what you are. And so he's starting to digest that, and we'll see where we go with him. But we had a few chairmen knocked off in Texas. It's funny, people are frustrated, Chad, but they reelected all their congressmen and they reelected most of their legislators, and so but they knocked off some chairmen, So I lost my successor in Dallas County was going to take over the Chairman's Association. Wade Emmert, very sharp guy, very professional. Got beat by a guy who I don't think has ever attended an executive committee meeting.
And Wade Emmert, for those at least who pay attention to politics in Dallas, he's fairly well known. I know he fills in for like Mark Davis in Dallas on the radio. So, I mean, he's a well-known guy as far as, party politics goes in Dallas.
Very well known, very professional, ran for state chairman, came up short in an SREC vote, but become a friend of mine. He's my vice chairman on the Chairman's Association, and we become friends. And I was shocked that night. I didn't even know he had an opponent that night, or I would have maybe done more to help him. We're also looking at losing possibly Paul Simpson, who's the Wade Emmert of Houston. Harris County is the largest Republican county in the United States, still votes mostly Republican there. And a guy named Paul Simpson won that from another guy named Jared Woodfill a few years ago. Jared's a little odd little guy, kind of, and very controversial down there. And Paul came in and very professional, very business-minded, a big-time attorney, and really turned that party around, got it working in the same direction again. And he's in a runoff with what you call a pay-to-play guy, somebody who just, if you pay him enough, he'll send out a mailer and call you a conservative, and that seems to work around Texas. So we've had some upheaval in the Republican Party. That same Jared Woodfill I just mentioned is running against the state chairman, the incumbent Tom Meckler, for state chairman, and has some momentum right now. So needless to say, we're a little scared to death of what might happen to the RPT. Kathy Adams is running as vice chair. She was a chair. The party went bankrupt, and now they're going to try it again, I guess. So it's a very controversial year in the Republican Party, including the mighty Republican Party of Texas.
Let's head to the phones. Mean Gene, you're on KFYO.
Yeah, howdy do. Carl, I called your office back in November, December, and I had a nice young gal take my call. But I was going to see if it was ever forwarded, and it was regarding the RNC was calling, asking for money. and they asked me a bunch of questions, and I told them no, no, and no. And the fellow that was trying to raise money, he ended up the call by saying, "You conservatives are going to have to change." And I was wondering if you ever got that message.
Man, no, I'm sorry. You know what? Call me offline here, and we'll commiserate together. I don't know about you. I've actually given to the RNC once or twice. I like to complain a lot, but at least you throw in every once in a while $25 or so. I need to stop doing it because they call me Do you get calls nonstop from them?
No, not since then. That was my last one because I just told the guy he was asking and begging for money, and I said, "You haven't shown up to do anything for me. You've caved and you've given everything to Barry O." And I said, "I can't support you.
Tell him
if you show me your sack is full, maybe I'll give you some money."
Yeah, tell them you love Bernie, and they'll stop calling you. I don't know. I apologize for that. I don't run the RNC. I've got some connections over there, and
I just called the local office so that it would be passed on.
Yeah,
and
no, I
anyway,
didn't. But that's, these guys call and mail a lot. I think that's even more annoying than them being rude to you on the telephone. So I regret.
But they were out begging for money, and I'm sure they were in the pocket of or they were looking for money to feed Jeb at the time, and they were doing all this stuff saying we got to fight Hillary and we got to do this. I said you can't fight squat. You haven't had it. You've had both. You've had all the momentum with elections for both the Senate and the House, and you won't stand up like you got a pair, so you're not getting diddly.
Mean Gene, I got a question. This is not a trick question. I'm just curious. Did you vote? Are you a Cruz, Trump, Kasich, or someone supporter?
Well, Trump would be last resort. I find him to be an embarrassment. And he's a bully because he's had money. Okay.
He sounds as angry as you, though. I wasn't sure which way you would go. So you were a Ted Cruz guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But he sits up there like a sour dowd whenever somebody says something about him with those little pouty lips of his, and he would be a last resort. But hey, you know what? Right now, it's going to be anybody other than Hillary.
Hey, Mean Gene, do not show up to the county convention.
Gene, no, okay? No,
come on, Gene. We need
we
need a little flavor. Come on. I'm sorry you got treated that way. And look, those guys, they're from Washington D.C. Mean Gene, what do you expect?
Well, but there again, if they're putting on a face, they better know who their audience is. And talking to me like that down here, if they call anybody else down here, it's going to be the same.
Yeah, Gene,
they don't know their audience. Yep.
Have a good one. Well, that's something that you hear with, just the politicians that they don't know. They don't get it. They don't understand the conservatives in the party.
Or the Trump supporters.
A lot of Trump supporters who are out there. There are a lot of people.
We were talking offline about I've had some calls from some high up in the state of Texas Republican Party officials saying, Carl, we think you're one of the highest ranking Republican Party person to be for Trump. I mean, what's wrong with you? But they also said, who are those people? And it made me realize, it took me about a week or two to realize they are scared to death of, these folks invest years, thousands and thousands, if not millions of dollars, investing in staff and politicians who they know and have relationships with so they can go to the dinners or maybe affect some policy somewhere down the line and be a big shot. Suddenly, when you have an outsider like Donald Trump or the Democrat side, Bernie Sanders, maybe he's been a U.S. Senator, but they are scared to death that Donald Trump would bring in a whole new slew of people who they don't know and don't have relationships with. And so I find it funny. This is exactly why the American people are voting the way they are, because they want to mix it up. They're just tired of everyone having all these insider boy relationships and sweet deals and move on. So I also think that's part of what's going on, is that the establishment is just scared to death that they're losing their investment.
Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. We'll take the break. When we come back, why not? More with Carl Tepper. We'll get into some other issues. Maybe the District 19 runoff, what he feels about that. We'll be right back. We've decided to hold Carl Tepper hostage in studio. I think it was we were only going to do like 30 minutes.
Segment.
Whatever. We're having fun. District 19 runoff, it's starting to, I think, get cooking a little bit out there. At least you see some news stories, debates scheduled for next month. And yesterday was that the ballot draw yesterday?
We had the ballot draw for the statewide candidates in the CD19 candidates for Glenn Robertson and Jody Arrington. And Jody's little girl, bless her, drew Glenn Robertson's name first, name the number one for Glenn. So Glenn will be number one in Lubbock County in the ballot, and Jody will be number two. I don't think it matters that much when people go into this a voting booth for a runoff. They know who they want. They're not just going to guess the first name on the ballot.
Were they both there?
They were both there.
When you get like two candidates
who
are in a
little
runoff,
uncomfortable.
Was it uncomfortable?
Yeah, it was a little bit like the high range in Lubbock, from 110 years ago. They're very polite. They're professionals, but there's a little tension in the air, and they know they're going to be going at each other and have gone at each other, and they need to go at each other. That's just the way it works.
Well, I would say the Arrington campaign, they really haven't. When you talk about going after, I don't know if they've gone after. They keep saying they're not going to do anything negative.
This is theory in politics where you got to be careful about watching all these presidential races and then how it flows down to a congressional race. When you're a U.S. congressman, that's the NFL of politics, okay? Yeah. The U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives. And so, when you're at that level, the funny thing about Congress, it's still local. District 19 is Abilene all the way to us. It's about 29 counties. And we all still know each other, and we all have mutual friends that we may agree or disagree. So you have to be careful going negative on the other guy. Mm-hmm. So Glenn Robertson went pretty negative on Bob Starr and Michael Bob Starr, excuse me, and Jody Arrington. And his election day numbers actually fell a little bit by a couple of points. So the people in Lubbock, and I suspect Abilene, of course everyone's different, probably don't like that style of campaigning. I didn't want to vote for Jody, and maybe I don't like him, but I really don't like this. I still respect him. I know him. I like him. I was going to vote for Glenn, but they might change their minds, and vice versa. That can happen too. So, and there's a few lessons there. When you're attacked, you need to respond. Yeah. Tell people that, I didn't just decorate an office. I rebuilt a whole office for use for a new user, and I did it at a much cheaper rate, or whatever the opposition's answer might be. Go ahead and respond, and sometimes you counterattack. What is one thing to learn from Donald Trump is I'm a counterpuncher. You hit me first, well, then I'll hit you back. But, till then we're friends, and I'm going to just talk about the issues. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys rework their campaigns now that some attention is being focused on them, and some of the attention has been ripped away by the presidential race for sure. So hopefully they've been resting a little bit these last few weeks, and now we're really in municipal cycle where we're looking at a few mayoral candidates and city council candidates, and so these guys get a little bit of a break. Maybe they get to regenerate some of their treasury so they can have enough money to run again. So.
Let's take the final break. When we come back, I want to get into something else that I get asked all the time about the Republican Party and municipal elections. So let's get into that when we come back. Let me ask you this. When it comes to city council elections, I've heard from a lot of people who say, why aren't these partisan elections? Why doesn't the Lubbock County Republican Party get more involved in city council elections?
We're traditionally, I'm not going to say we're not allowed to because it's against the law, but they are nonpartisan elections, and you often there's no process to pick the Republican. There's no primary. So you can have two Republicans on the same ballot. In this case, you've got Todd Klein, who over the time has become pretty strong Republican, and you've got Dan Pope, who has consistently been a Republican. So, how do we choose and take that party infrastructure and use it against or for, one guy or the other? And that would really set the party into a splitting. You're setting it up to fail. So, unless, and by the way, I think they should be partisan elections. New York does it that way. A lot of states do it that way. I don't think there's any advantage to saying, well, but this is home, I don't know what that means. Yeah. I would rather just be partisan and have one more filter of who I'm getting up there. But that's just my opinion, and there's really been no push in Texas to change it.
What do you think will happen with the District 19 runoff? How heated do you think it gets?
I think it's going to get pretty heated. Both guys deserve to be up there. They're very talented. They are running very incredible campaigns. Some of the best campaigns I've seen. Very shrewd, very sharp, well funded, energized. So it can go either way. I think it's going to be touch and go all the way into primary election day.
All right, Lubbock County Republican outgoing chairman.
Bye,
Carl Tepper. Thank you.